we're here to just talk about the general state, right? You work with the local providers for the greater Austin area. What would you say, how would you say they're doing when it comes to staffing-wise?
It's a little bit of a mixed bag, I think, and there are a few reasons for that. We know that some of the bigger centers that have more of the infrastructure, bigger admin teams, are enrolling more kids and getting more reimbursement for subsidy or getting more parent tuition. They're able to afford their staff members, right, because they're at scale. So some of the bigger centers are not seeing as much turnover as they did during COVID. But what I do know is that a lot of our smaller, I call them mom and pop, but a lot of our smaller centers, think less than 50 kids, are struggling still to recruit staff and then retain them. Pretty much same as it was during COVID.
Yeah, and so when you look at the grand scheme of things for parents or just like what role would you say these smaller ones play, right? They're not less important than the bigger ones? Like, they have a role in this ecosystem. What role would you say those smaller places have?
That's interesting. So a lot of the smaller centers are located inside of neighborhoods. They are kind of, and it's based off of what parents want, right? We need a system that allows for what feels right for different families, different cultures, whatever their values are. And so some of the smaller center providers are picking up where, first of all, there aren't enough spots available in all of the big centers around the city and some of the incorporated centers. And a lot of families want something that feels a little bit more like a family or a little bit more homegrown, where they have a little more autonomy and agency inside of maybe some of the rules or policies that the center is putting forward. So I think they have a really important role there. They exist and serve families inside of their neighborhoods, oftentimes. And so part of our work is to support those smaller businesses and centers who are in it because they love kids. Our smaller centers have the ability to focus on what is really required for developmentally appropriate practice and environment. So you'll see families gravitating towards some of those smaller centers whenever they want something that's really specially created for their little one at that small age, where it's really important that the environment and the caregivers have a lot of one-on-one interactions with those kids.
And I did a story a little while ago about that non-traditional care, and they kind of did a survey because they wanted to know where parents wanted their care, and it sounded like they wanted it close to home. And so the smaller ones, it sounds like, which are in the neighborhoods, are able to be that, right?
Yes, very much so. And it's also, when you have less kids at the center, you get to know the caregivers better, you get to know the director better. I'm one of those parents, actually, that has a child at a neighborhood center, and I think that's the difference between going to some of the bigger centers and staying close to home.
Yeah, and so we know that for sure, like you said, the smaller ones are the ones that are kind of in need, but overall, there's still a need, right? There's not enough spaces, big, small, or little, right?
Not enough spaces for kids or for staff?
Kids.
Yes, that's correct. And we also know that there's a waiting list right now of about 4,200 kids for Child Care Scholarship, formerly known as subsidy from Workforce. That's a huge amount of families waiting to get a spot. And that, of course, is indicative of there are more families who need places for their kids to go and are not able to afford the higher rates that come along with some of the centers just so they can make ends meet. So we're tracking that pretty closely too.
And what's being done about it?
With the ARPA money, there was a lot of investment into some of those kind of pilot programs or those pie-in-the-sky programs that we wanted to see happen. It was fabulous to see that when the funding was there, our centers were able to make ends meet. They were able to accommodate more children into their centers. They were also able to retain their staff, which is better overall for the children and their care. But since the ARPA dollars will be going away toward the end of this year and into next year, we have a number of options available to the community. We know we need local leaders to roll up their sleeves and get into the work with us, because there is no money coming from the feds. There's no more money coming from the state. It's going to have to be a locally decided and funded effort.
Okay. And And what would you say to anyone who says, if the little ones don't have the staff, everyone should go to the bigger locations?
That would also leave us with not enough spots. So I think that in the ecosystem of childcare centers in our community, we talk a lot about things like mixed delivery pre-K. Well, it's also kind of a mixed delivery childcare system. There are childcare centers available in the in multiple formats, and it's what your family wants and what you value and what you think is important for your child to be getting at home. So it's a family choice option as well.
Okay. And I know that recently you mentioned, local politicians rolling up their sleeve. The county and the city both are, doing away with property taxes, and they're looking to extend those. So would you have confidence in our local leaders that they are aware and working on this? Very
much so, and want to applaud them for passing the Prop 2 property tax exemption for our child care centers. It gives me hope that we might be able to start to support the early childhood ecosystem, and we know that with the the amount of folks moving into Travis County in recent years, that we have a lot of young families who want a place for their kids to go, who are willing to do what they can to make sure that there is enough childcare available for their own children, for their neighborhood, for their community. And so I think the message that we are hearing and that we certainly want to continue to share is that there's an appetite for making some changes that will positively affect the child care centers in our community.
Yeah, and I know the mayor said that this is one of his big priorities. So
yes, yeah.
He's working on it.
Yes. We are excited to see with the end of ARPA what will come forward from the city and county and mayor's office and what have you. But we know that something's going to have to give, something's going to have to change, and so we're just excited to work with those leaders and make sure that there's a benefit for the child care centers and the child care sector.
Yeah, and then just off the top of your head, can you remember what ARPA stands for?
American Rescue Plan Act. Okay. So there is a lot of growth and a lot of new jobs that are coming to our city, which is fabulous. But what we know is that if there are parents who are not able to enter the workforce and are not able to fill any of those positions, it starts to become more work, more burden on the workers who are there, right? And so then you'll start to see that there's some frustration from workers who maybe don't have children but need to be supported and have some of their responsibilities taken off of their plate as well. So in terms of workforce and how we ensure that the entire economy is running and functioning smoothly, you want childcare available so that everybody can participate, all of our positions are filled, and we're able to meet the promise that we have from all of these new jobs coming in.
For these smaller places that are having trouble hiring staff, what kind of burden does that put on the staff that they already do have?
It means that some of their staff members are going without lunch breaks, probably. They're probably struggling to be able to take care of their own kids at certain points because they're coming in earlier or leaving later because they don't have the ability to let them go pick up their own children. And then it causes burnout whenever you have more kids per caregiver. They're changing more diapers, maybe. They are providing such excellent levels of care for children, and that takes a toll on a human. Just think about parents who are tired after 2 years of staying at home, trying to help their kid on school on Zoom. These caregivers are giving 100% of their attention to children all day, every day. And so when there are less of them, that means that they're stretched even thinner, and they'll start to leave the profession. We know that that's the case. They're looking to head to jobs in the tech sector, or manufacturing sector, I should say. They're heading to fast food, Buc-ee's, if they can pay me better and I'm not as exhausted and emotionally drained at the end of the day, that's probably where I'm going to go.
Okay, so all of this is an effort to retain workers, right? Pay them more, get more there, less work burden.
Yeah, and just as a city, I think we want to say we value this space of 0 to 6, right? We know that this is an important, incredibly important part of a person's life. And as we have younger and younger families and more kids coming in, we want to make it a space where everybody can thrive. And those youngest learners are citizens here just like you and I are. And so we want to make it an equitable place to grow up to. Part of what we've learned in our support of local child care centers is that, especially for those smaller centers, these are small businesses, and so a lot of what they actually require, it isn't that they don't want to be able to support their workers and have the benefits and the extra stipends and a really happy place to work, but a lot of times they are focused on A, making ends meet, and B, just the child development itself, right? Like, they get into the work because they're educators. And so one thing that we know is true and we're working on here at United Way is trying to support their back office needs and some of those small business needs that they have. We know just nationally that Shared Services Alliance, like the ones that we have here, are doing a lot to support child care centers and providers with things that they maybe didn't know they needed that are actually then benefiting the center, making it a more sustainable place for their staff members, and therefore creating more spots for kids because they are able to keep the staff. And so that's maybe a lesser thought of solution to a problem that we've identified.
And what is the shared solution?
Shared Services Alliance. Yeah, Shared Services Alliance is it's a cohort of child care centers. Oftentimes there's a price or a buy-in just to opt into this group. We're providing it for free right now for all of our child care centers and trying to kind of pilot it so that we can make it sustainable. But with the fuller group, it's often like shared benefits, right? So if we can get a group together that has enough staff members, for instance, we might be able to buy into a benefits plan for all of their staff members together across multiple centers. And then it's not as high of a cost on the child care provider to provide for their smaller staff. Same thing with other resources like child care management software, hiring software, payroll, that kind of thing. And so that's part of what we're trying to put together so that childcare providers in our area are able to access it at a lower cost, and hopefully then use some of that saved cost to put toward teacher wages or resources in their child care center, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay. So are they right now, with this alliance, are they able to offer benefits like insurance or anything, or that's the goal?
That is the goal. That's one of our pie in the sky goals, but we're working up to it. Right now we are offering a child care management software called Brightwheel for free. Those licenses can get pretty expensive because they're based on how many children you're buying them for. So we're offering Brightwheel. We are offering actually a payroll software as well as a hiring software. And our Shared Services Alliance is what some people would call a little more white glove. We are also connecting them with a teacher recruitment specialist who then is getting to know the landscape in Austin and able to not only screen the candidates to ensure that they meet some of the qualifications, but also that they're getting placed in a center where they actually would want to work, right? Not all child care centers are the same, and so another thing that's helpful is when you have someone who can say, well, your interest is more in a bilingual classroom, and so if you are bilingual, we're going to put you, we're going to offer to place you in centers where that's a need that they have. It gives us kind of a balcony view of the teacher staffing landscape right now, and then also the support for center providers when, a lot of them have postings on Indeed for months at a time and hear nothing, or reach out to these candidates and they're getting no-show interviews at this point. So it's helpful for them to take that burden off of their plate a little bit.
Awesome. Do you know if any of the providers that you sent me contact information for are part of the alliance?
Yes. Atelier is one of them. Texas Prep School is one of them. And I think both of those have used the teacher staffing support through our business coaches.
Awesome. That's a good tool to have.
Yeah, well, we're trying. Like anything, it's a support that is not self-sustaining, so we are continuing to fundraise. We did use some of those ARPA dollars from the city and county for this alliance, and we'll continue to try to scale it and make sure that we're able to continue into the future once ARPA dollars are gone.